Coming to you from the all-new Live House in Hollywood, California.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Pensado's Place. Our guest has the #1 record in the country. You're going to enjoy our conversation with Benjamin Rice. He's super, super talented. Remember the SWEETWATER GearFest, June 26th and 27th. On the 26th, Dave is going to have a very special ITL. On the 27th, at 3 p.m. Eastern, he's being interviewed, and we're going to do a deep dive into the Dave Pensado career. For the information, go to sweetwater.com/GearFest. Remember to like and subscribe. Hit us at our socials, at Pensado's Place, at Dave Pensado, at Herb Trowick, and sign up for a newsletter. And now, Dave and I really enjoyed this interview, and I hope you will too. Here's the badass known as Benjamin Rice. Benjamin, what's happening?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, no. It's fantastic.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing?
Listen, man, you came zooming out of all the success and the hardware and stuff of you and Gaga and Bradley Cooper and Star is Born. And I think really didn't take a break. You went right into Chromatica. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's
Wow.
never a break.
And is that a good thing because it's a continuum, or does it create a different thing? Do you need a break to freshen up your ears? How does it affect you? Because you had lots of different hats on this.
That's true. That's a good question. I think it's probably good to keep the momentum going. It probably doesn't feel like that in the moment. I think in the moment you probably want a break. But I think in hindsight, looking back, like that momentum's kind of key, especially to start something new. Like if we had continued Star is Born for another year, I think we'd all be burned out.
Yeah.
But starting something new and fresh from the beginning, I think was probably a really good thing.
All the different hats that you wore, I mean, producer, writer, vocal producer, engineer, mixer, a little bit we'll talk about the fact that you're putting video together. Is there one thing that you like more than the other, or do you just bring to the project whatever's needed?
I think I probably enjoy the multitasking element of it. I think I get bored if I only have one thing to do. I think I'm always looking for something else to contribute. So I don't want to overstep a boundary if an artist doesn't want me to get involved in some way. But the great thing about working with Gaga is that, over time, that relationship has developed in a way to where I'm able to collaborate with her in whatever's needed in that moment. So that may be engineering and vocal production for that day. It may be contributing some songwriting. In the end, is contributing mixing. I think I thrive in being able to kind of wear the different hats. It keeps me busy, for lack of a better term. It keeps you, very focused on a multitude of different things. And I think that's keeps it fresh.
So one of the things, and I just want to, Benjamin, make sure that you're responsible for my addiction, because when I played Rain on Me, there was a point in time where my lady came down the hallway pissed off about an hour later because I just had it on a loop. And it was just getting louder and louder and louder. And what was fun for me about it is it was true to Gaga. It was true to Ariana. You got two folks that can blow. And I hope you take this as a positive. It reminded me, and I'm going to use a little bit of an older reference, so I apologize to the audience. It reminded me of a great Madonna record.
Yeah, sure.
Right? There was an energy and stuff to it, but it was a perfect little pop nugget, but it had dance elements and other kinds of stuff. Am I getting it right, or am I missing it?
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, we talked a lot about that. The team of Blood Pop and with Burns, who the two of them produced the song, and Tom Morrison and I, who mixed the song. A lot of the things that we discussed on this album and that song in particular is trying to have elements of house and disco and dance, but in a new, fresher way. So, yeah, that reference makes perfect sense. I mean, that was something we discussed a lot. Trying to have a retro future house sound.
I mean, you hit it Rain on Me is in my head right now while I'm interviewing you. And I've always felt that a really, I think everybody feels this way, but a really amazing hook and the things that support it, it gets in your soul and you can't do anything about it. you just have to process it out. So I just wanted to say kudos to the team, because it was also immediate. Once I heard it one time, I literally hit Buffy about 3:00 in the morning, because we both have vampiritis. And for the audience, Buffy is his incredible manager, and Josh Goodwin's wife, by the way. And I said, did Benjamin do this? And I hadn't looked up the credits yet. And she said, yeah, he did it all. And man, it was, I'm big upping you just because
Thank you.
I appreciate craftsmanship that targets a goal and then hits the goal. And it felt like that happened on this album.
But man, it's like, that's a hard thing to achieve when you set out to do it. And I think, and I appreciate you saying all that. That song, man, you talk about listening to it on loop. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to that song on loop. We went through so many revisions trying to get it right. And by get it right, like, how do you define what's right? I think it was like, does it feel right to us? Is this going to translate? Does this have the elements? Does it hit hard enough as a dance record? Is the songwriting strong enough? Is the hook strong enough? And then when you try to put two powerhouse singers like that together, on paper, it makes perfect sense. But how do you actually do that to where both can shine, both can complement each other? So, man, it was all hands on deck for a long time. That song went through a lot of versions. But I think where it ended, I can listen to it now. And once I've had some distance from a record that I've worked on, I'm able to listen to it and for the first time kind of appreciate it. And I'm happy to say I can listen to it now and I actually really enjoy it. So I think we stopped at a good place and decided, let's not fuck it up anymore. Let's stop touching it. I think we got it.
You killed it. Absolutely.
Thanks, Herb.
Man, I don't think I've heard a song in quite a long time, particularly a mix, where the delay throws were so prominent and so well thought out that they became hooks. They actually extended the vocal in such a way that put your thinking cap on, because I got some serious questions for you on what you did on the word innocent that Ariana sings. What's that delay throw?
I have a few. I think the one that you probably hear the most in that mix is it's a half delay.
On the word innocent at the end of yeah.
So that one, I'm going to try to remember. It's been a second. I think that was just Sound Toys, the Echo Boy on a half delay, filtered a little bit, and then I have some Valhalla reverb with a long pre-delay and a long tail. So you get the delay. And then as it continues, it just kind of softens and kind of disappears into the reverb that the vocal has as the lead, if that makes sense. So I like this interchanging of hearing delays, and then they just kind of like morph back into what the aesthetic of the vocal that you've already been introduced to.
And then I'd Rather Be Dry, that whole section. What are the effects on that section? By the way, I'm asking this for my own selfish reasons, because I'm going to rip it off and use it on the next mix. But what was on that?
I wish I had this open. I can go through it better with you. I'd rather be dry, but at least I'm alive.
Feels like there was a delay going into a reverb or a reverb going into a delay, one of the two.
Both, probably. I do a lot of automating those things. When I'm listening to it on loop, when I'm doing vocal mixes on my vocal productions, I'm trying, and I really appreciate that you're picking these things up, because there's only a few of us in the world that probably geek out about this kind of stuff. So it's fun to talk about.
You can feel it. You can feel it. It amplifies the song. I mean, you can feel it. They're so good.
Well, I look at delays and reverbs, like whatever you want to call those effects behind a vocal. I see all of those as like transitions in like a baton race. It's like there's a line that is sung, and then I want the effects behind that to transition to the next thing and to the next thing. Not to where it gets obnoxious, and I also don't want to repeat the same moves over and over and over. So a lot of times I'll take certain words and just put them on their own tracks so that I can affect just those words differently than, say, sends and returns off a vocal. So I'm using some plug and mix stuff, some echo flex. I'm using some spring verbs in some places. And I try to use reverbs at the end of my delays in parallel, so I can just kind of play with that.
Okay. That's cool. I didn't think about that. And who was the guitar player?
Burns played the guitar on that.
Who did?
Burns, who co-produced the song with Blood Pop.
I feel so sorry for him. He had to play in C sharp minor, and that cripples your fingers when you have to do that as a guitar player. But he pulled it off kind of funky, you know.
It's funky. It's stuff. Yeah, I think the guitar part in that really elevates that song. It gives it that retro funky vibe that it needs, you know?
Yeah. It's very funky. In fact, it's seamlessly funky. It's so cool. It feels like it's leading the charge in terms of the groove, you know? But I'm a guitar player, so I'm just...
No, of course.
We had Tom Morrison on, and you guys actually split the mixing, right? You mixed the vocals and he mixed the thing. How did that work together? Did you guys just stay in touch and stay close, or did he do his thing, give it to you, and you do your thing? And
well, we were both here at Henson, so that helped. So I was in studio
in that room, correct?
So he was in this room, mix room. I have a session here today. Is the only reason I'm in here now. But I was in Studio B, which is just across the hall. So it was a really seamless. It's kind of unconventional to split it up that way, but for a record like this and the way we were working, we're mixing and producing as we're writing and recutting. So it's like a constant moving target. Mm-hmm. So he could pop in my room and listen to kind of what I'm doing. I could pop in his room, listen to how he's shaping things up. So essentially what we would do is we would just keep trading each other 2 tracks. He'd give me an updated instrumental because he's working on instrumental mixes with Burns and Blood Pop and adding his own productions and like touches to like low end and all of his tricks to try to get it in the right place. Mm-hmm. So then he would give me an instrumental and then I would start shaping my mix around that instrumental. I give him an acapella and we're just kind of literally just chasing each other, trying to like find that sweet spot of how it's working. And then once we felt like the arrangement and all like the meat and potatoes were done, then I can give him a couple stems. We can sit in here and just do, you know, small volume adjustments. So it was actually really fun doing that. I was able to focus just on what I love doing, just the vocal aesthetics and the vocal treatments and the comps, the tuning, all those things. And he's able to sit here and just do all the sonic design for the music with Blood and with Burns. And then we could sit together as a team and, you know, take the bounces out to his car in the parking lot and make sure the car test passes. You know, we were just seamlessly together the whole time, and that really made it a lot easier.
And I think you can hear it in the mixes. There's you know, sometimes mixes can if you're, you know, a fairly astute listener, mixes can sound fatigued. You know, it's been overthought, it's been overworked, overneeded, too many committees involved. There's an energy to this, right? There's an energy to this that is evident through the whole record, and it just feels like a lively, happy kind of thing, and it translates to the songs.
Well, I'm glad that translates because I think we were all guilty of that. We had our own personal fatigue of working on it and listening to it and questioning ourselves, you know. You guys understand this. You've been doing this a lot longer than we have. You work on something so long, you get into this territory of, is this even good? Or do we suck? What are we even doing? You know. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that it doesn't feel fatigued to anyone else. It doesn't to me now listening to it. I'm really proud of what we did. But I think that team element of it was helpful because we were all in the same location the whole time. It wasn't sending files to someone else or going to different studios. We were right here. We can listen to it in my room, listen to it in Tom's room, listen to it together in here. And then she could come in and listen to it with us and give us notes in real time of things she might want to hear differently. And, you know, if I get inspired by something Tom and Burns and Blood Pop are doing in the production, then I would sit in my room and just figure out better transitions to take the vocal from one section to the next that will complement what they're doing in the music. So it was really fun being able to work that way.
Tell me about Ariana's vocal ability. She can, I mean, you worked with folks on this record who can absolutely blow, and legendary folks out and so on and so forth. Ariana, I think, is a really amazing vocalist. What was it like to work with her?
I mean, it was a pleasure. It was effortless. I mean, really. I mean, you don't have to really do much. As soon as she started singing, I think all of us were just kind of just smiling and had a good time. I mean, I remember we were very careful on this record because of the fact that Lady Gaga is such a superstar and there was so much anticipation for this record. Yeah, we weren't sending bounces or references to anyone. And that included Ari. We didn't send her a version of it for her to even prepare to sing to. Wow. We just politely asked her, like, if you would be willing to do this, could you come to us? We'll play it for you and see if you want to jump on it. So I remember when she came and listened to it for the first time, we were all together. And, you know, Gaga and her both were just so moved by the energy of the song together that there was tears shed and laughter and high fives. And like, that was the energy going into the booth of like, holy shit, like this is going to be great. And so, it was just, it happened on its own. she started singing, I was like, yep, that's it. That's the answer. That's what's going to take what's already a really good record with, you know, one of the world's best singers ever, Gaga, and give it the compliment that it really needs and take this to a new level. And it's the kind of feature where I can't think of two cooler people to be on that record.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's so unique.
And it was unexpected and then turned out so good. And if I could, because I want you to tell our audience, or at least tell me, I'm going to give you a 2-second Gaga personal story. Dave was working out of a different studio. I think it was Oasis at the time, and she was getting a record mastered, and she was at the height of her Gaga-ness. And, you know, there was a lot of team around her and security and stuff. And she came through the hallway, and I was walking through the hallway, and, you know, they were being very careful about people being around. And I was like, you know, should I duck inside the studio or do whatever the case may be? And I said hi, and she said hi. And we had like this 4-minute conversation, and it was just the most regular, normal, no excessive superstar stuff. Yeah. And it just struck me. And then I recently saw where in Malibu a friend came up to her, or a fan came up to her and said how much she had influenced some people close to her in terms of their journey. And she was so cool about it that she just gave her the jacket because she liked her jacket and let her walk away. Is that the person that we?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It's so cool. So cool.
That's just how she is. You know, it's like, it shouldn't be surprising, but it is, because they live in a different world. They're superstars. And, you know, we see ourselves as servants to that career, right? Or as fans of that ability, that talent. But that's absolutely how she is. That's how she is with all of us.
Love that. Love that.
Hey, Ben, so and Herb, this is my last Rain song because I got to get all these techniques, and I got to get something out of this, you know. So a lot of people don't realize, Ben, how hard the decisions we have to make when we have two singers on the same song, 3 singers on the same song. Do you kind of make them all work together? Do you kind of give them all their unique individual sound? Right. It feels to me like you went with make Gaga Gaga, make Ariana, but yet they blend. So that's a difficult thing that a lot of people don't think about, particularly when you have like a Boys to Men, 4 group guys. You know, it's hard to. And I got to compliment you on it and ask about your thought process on how you solve that puzzle.
Well, you said it. It was a puzzle. It was definitely a unique challenge. It was fun to figure out. I think what helped, Dave, was the songwriting from everyone, having Ari sing the harmonies when she comes in that first chorus, or the second chorus technically with her. Frequency-wise, that helped because they're not singing the same notes. So I was able to like have the harmony that Ari's doing with Gaga's lead, and then I had some harder lead melodies from Ari that I kind of had tucked underneath. So she's supporting the melody, but her more forward vocal in that second chorus is more of a harmony to the melody that Gaga's doing. So I think that helps just kind of like put them together. But it was a puzzle. There was Ari ad-libs, there was Gaga's ad-libs, and all the backgrounds. And go ahead.
Brilliantly seamed together. Did you? It feels to me like you also used reverbs to set them back front to rear from each other. Like you know what I'm saying? It's like the vocals are 3-dimensional, and that technique, if you can explain it to our audience, was brilliant the way you did it.
Well, thank you. Because it was a song we worked on for so long, towards the end when I was trying to hone in on the vocal mixes, I started printing all of my effects returns so that I could just be working with 2-track prints of all of the individual reverb returns and some of the plates and different things that I'd used here at Henson. That way, I could just do clip automation of turning reverbs up, down, different colors of them. I could EQ them all separately to complement whatever vocal is having the forefront in that moment. That made the automation to me more immediate, that I was working with clips. So it was almost like doing a stem session mix of my own vocal production that I had stemmed down. So that made it a lot easier for me to make those moves to where I could have a little drier here, a little wetter here. If it was really wet in one spot and it was kind of clouding it up, I could just carve out some of the mids that were making it cloudy, that were covering Gaga up. So there's just so many interchanging colors and aesthetic decisions that it was easier for me to work on it that way, if that makes any sense.
It does. I wish I could have the audience hear a version without all those effects and see how different the song really is. It's frightening how much a gift like you have with those elements, the delay and reverbs, can enhance performance and enhance everything.
Well, you know what, Dave? I actually utilize that same technique in my mixes, except I just do it all on my iPhone. So I'll be happy to show the.
I appreciate that, Herb. I love your willingness to contribute.
I'm happy to share. Hey, Benjamin, I find the artists that work with you, they also have such high level of craftsmanship, like Julia Michaels. That's that is absolutely one of our stalwart gems in.
Yeah, me too.
As a writer, as an artist, what's the magic of Julia and working with her?
Magic of Julia. The magic of Julia is Julia.
Julia.
I mean, I guess that you could ask the same question about any artist. I'd probably say the same thing. The magic is them. The trust that I'm, grateful to establish with the artist. When they're really happy with the work and they compliment maybe what I'm doing to their vocals or whatever, I always remind them, like, I'm not the one singing. I'm not the artist in that way. Like, I'm trying to shine a light in the right places on what you're doing. With Julia, what I think is really special about her, she's one of the very few songwriter artists that never writes a lyric down. She gets behind the mic and she creates it on the spot with me.
Really?
So I can make long loops and I just let her go. And when there's something that starts to happen melodically that she's humming through or trying to place little words, it's usually just a look. I'll look and be like, "Ooh, that was something." And she'll be like, "Okay." And she'll just keep trying that idea. And it just happens in real time. It's like a 45-minute segment of us looping, and Pro Tools has never stopped once. And all of a sudden we have a sketch and we start laying it down top to bottom. And that's a really rare gift to be able to just come up with it on the spot. And so I try to pay attention to, like, what is the mix that she's hearing? If the aesthetic of the song is really open, then I'm going to have a lot of effects already happening in her headphones so that she can kind of sing into those things, and that will change maybe where she goes in a melody. And it just kind of happens in real time. It's really special.
It's like a rapper going off the dome.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's
when I worked with Pink. When I worked with Pink, she did the same thing too. That same thing. We'd run a DAT back. This was a while back, but we'd get the party started. We'd run a DAT, and then she just freaked out for an hour, and then she'd take a break, and Linda Perry would cut it up and make a song, and then she'd come back. I like working like that.
It's crazy, but it's so inspiring because as they're putting so much magic in real time right in front of you, it just inspires you to shape it, grab it the best way that you can. It's really fun. Like, very few people can do that. It's a pretty cool thing.
In your
I know. I'm sorry.
In your amazing hat, sorry, Dave. You did something in this COVID period for the World Health Organization. You guys did a video about that, or you helped put that together. Explain that, what the purpose was, and how that came about.
Sure. So the song was called "If the World Was Ending," and it was written, recorded, produced, mixed long before any of this stuff had happened. Which I think is important to note. It wasn't something done specifically for COVID.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know that.
It was just a rare coincidence that, wow, this song really applies,
Yes, it does.
So the artist, JP Sachs, is a good friend of mine. I've worked with him for a while. That song was the first session the three of us had done together. I've worked with Julia for a long time, but Julia and I had never done anything with JP. So we had one session over at Westlake, and the conversation started. There was an earthquake around that time, not a major one, but an earthquake. And we were just kind of discussing like what we were all doing in that moment. I was talking about how my kids were freaking out, and I was kind of freaking out. Everyone's kind of telling their anecdote of what was going on. And that kind of led to like, where does your mind go when something tragic kind of happens, even if it's just for 30 seconds when you feel everything moving underneath you?
Yeah.
Where does your mind go? The people you love, the things maybe you want to fix in your life or fix with other people. And that song was born in that first session with us. So fast forward to COVID, JP has some really great relationships within the World Health Organization, and just thought it might be a wonderful thing to use that song as a way to like raise as much money as possible, specifically to go to Doctors Without Borders, because their fight is an ongoing, whether it's COVID or not COVID, there's always work to be done, and very important work, obviously.
Yeah.
So JP and Julia just reached out to all of their friends and wanted to know who would donate their time to do it. So I got a Dropbox of 30 or 40 iPhone videos of people singing different parts. And my good friend Summer and I sat down and just went through all those things and tried to create a video comp, try to make the iPhone audio work. And, you know, it was all for a good cause. So it was a good thing to be a part of. Good on you, man.
Hey, tell me if you think I'm right, and then if I'm right, I'm going to ask you for how you do it. I reference a lot, probably more than a lot of people would. Most of the engineers I know don't reference quite as much as me. I don't know why, but I just like to play disc jockey, or in today's world, I like to play playlist coordinator and just see how I'm sliding in between all these other songs. I'll play 5 songs, my mix, 5 songs, and try and get a feel for that. You seem to have a gift for how to reference, and can you share that with us?
Well, I got to be honest, Dave, and I kind of feel bad saying this. I don't really reference really at all. I rarely. I don't reference enough. And the reason I say I feel bad saying that is I feel like I should reference more. And I don't know what the reason is that I don't. I think I just get tunnel vision of what I'm working on, that I just kind of get sucked into it. And maybe if I reference more, I could save myself a few thousand hours of obsession to have something to compare it to. But I find that when I start to reference something, it can be really helpful, but also makes me second guess maybe something new that I'm creating that isn't chasing something else. So I try really hard to just follow my instincts and just to really pay attention to what's right in front of me. And if I can make that feel good and special, towards the end, if I feel like I'm close to being done, maybe I'll reference a little, but I'm usually kind of scared to reference. I'm afraid it's going to make me hate what I did. So I kind of just focus on what I'm doing and hope that it's good.
And by the way, let me just step in real quickly. Benjamin, it's working.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The reason you don't do it is you don't need it. But I know a couple of engineers, Jason Joshua. Jason can keep a 30 cycle, 40 cycle, 50 cycle in his brain and know just how loud to put it without referencing. And then I can't. I can do that, but I'm usually wrong about not wrong, but I'm off a little bit half the time. And then the way I tend to work is I tend to find the main elements and then construct the mix around that and have them support that. So I get an internal reference from what I'm working with. But at some point, I have to go outside and maybe 6 out of 10 times I have to know what I need to beat. I don't want my mix to sound as good as anybody's. I try to play things that force me to go to the next level. And that one little sentence cost me about 2 to 3 hours of mix, but I'm falling off hilarious. So I guess that's what I'm living with. But anyway, that's so cool. I'm glad you like that. I could have sworn that I read something about you referencing, but maybe I read something about you not referencing. That's probably what I did.
As you know, you have to run through the infamous batter's box gauntlet, which is coming right up. But before you do that, you know, I often feel, and I like to think about what we all do for a living, sometimes technically, but also holistically, because so many things come into play for a creative person to be creative. You know, secure at home, family life, that being able to step away, having balance, having a good manager, for instance, and being in happy. Are those things important so that Benjamin Rice can go do what he does?
Oh man, of course. I mean, you know, I can give Buffy a great shout out. Like I can't imagine having the career that I have, or just having the stability and the confidence to move forward with whatever's ahead of me without her by my side to help me do that. Yeah. And, you know, trying to appreciate fully the responsibility of a great manager is something that's complicated to like really try to explain, because there's so much that I know she's doing or that you're doing that like maybe I don't see or Dave doesn't see, but that helps us as a team. And, you know, over the years working with her, like that appreciation, that understanding and respect for that just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Because, you know, sometimes what I need is someone to tell me like everything's gonna be fine. You know, sometimes that role is being a friend therapist, just to let you know, like, you're good. So she helps my balance greatly just by like doing a lot of the business side where I can focus more on the creative. Obviously, that's a big part of it. And, you know, I have 2 children and I'm in a lovely wife at home. And that balance of family life and work life it's an ongoing moving target for me, because I'm so committed and so dedicated to doing work. But at the same time, I want to be the best father and best husband I can be. So that is a tough balance. And I got to, you know, obviously give super props to my wife for not leaving me yet and for holding it down. But
absolutely. And Buffy is an amazing talent. There's just, and for all who know her. And so, you know, the shout out wasn't intended, but I often sometimes think that our audience, as they want to become the Benjamin Rices or the Dave Pensados or even the Herb Charles, that journey is different for everybody. And whenever you get there, can be very different. Everybody's there is different. And it's important that they're able to look at the whole 180-degree picture and not just get, you know.
Well, you know, if I can add this, Herb, like,
please.
It might be different for everybody, but there's one thing that's the same, and that is you can't do it by yourself. You just can't. You have to have a good team around you. Like, whether it's Buffy being a part of my team or my wife being a part of my team, or with Rain on Me, Tom Norris, Blood Pop, Burns, Rami Yakub, like, it's a team always. It's not something you can ever just do by yourself. So.
And I'll tell you, I'm coming out with a thing called Manager Minutes. And the one thing about a team, and I don't care if you like sports, whatever team means to you, you have to trust your team. You have to let your team do what they do. You have to get out of the way and let that happen. Otherwise, you're just grinding gears. And sure. Right? That's not sexy. So, Dave, let's tee up batter's box. Benjamin is tough. He's also a returning champion. So, you know, be prepared to be shelled.
Take it easy, Dave. I don't want to embarrass myself.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Stereo bus.
Shadow Hills.
Meters.
Usually the TC Electronics, I can't remember the model of it, but it's got all the techie shit that I look at that I like. Go ahead.
Love it.
Song key.
Shit, man. I don't know. A minor. No. Let me change that. If I can. D minor. Let's go with D minor.
Make a note of that, Herb. Subs.
Shit, what's in this room right now? I'm not the techiest person in the world. I would go with the Asperger subs.
Saturation.
We could talk about that for an hour. Saturation. Black box. I'm using a lot of that to saturate some things.
I love it. Compressor.
Let's go with hardware. CL1B. Internally, as far as UAD stuff, Fairchild 670.
Favorite outboard.
H3500.
Live or program drums?
I mean, I'm a drummer, so I'm going to have to say props for all drummers. Let's do live.
Okay. MS, mid-side.
I use the BX Digital V3.
Yeah, they make the best. What is the cheapest piece of gear you've used on a high-profile record?
Cheapest piece of gear? Myself. Me.
Okay. Best ever. Best answer in the history of Batter's Box. I concede. I'm going to brush up skill set. I'm actually going to go home and cry right now. Thank you, Benjamin, for
that is actually the best answer to that question we've had in a decade. And the funny part about it is that it's an honorable thing. It's not even a throwaway. It's like more people should say it. That's so cool. I got to tell you, Benjamin, there's always a light that happens when we have you on the show. I hope we can utilize you. One of the things that's beginning to evolve is, we're getting some green shoots here about live stuff and NAMM and other things. I'm in contact with them closely, and we're talking about stuff. They're also asking us to do some virtual things. And what we like to do is bring to specific audiences talent that they might not get to. So, if you see me scratching Buffy's door saying, hey, can I get in for 30 more minutes for a webinar or something? You bring such energy, such insight. I absolutely think you're a superstar. Love your work and love how you give back and share. And also want to thank you for your service. I think at a time when people are poking at the bear and trying to figure out, if we didn't have people who committed to doing what you did when you gave your time and were in the service, we wouldn't have the country that we live in. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Dave, why don't you take us home, man?
Okay. One of the things that kind of subtly we heard today was how Benjamin can do so many things and do them at a high, extremely high level. Writing, producing, vocal producing, engineering, mixing. And Vincent van Gogh once said to his brother Theo that in order to master one thing, in order to master many things, one must learn how to master one thing. And in mastering one thing, you've mastered everything. And I think that applies to Benjamin. He's got a reputation, and we know him as someone that's really worked hard on mastering his engineering skills. And then that gave him the ability to do so many other things for Gaga. And I think that's what the future of our profession is going to be, Benjamin, where a person like him can come in and be a Swiss Army knife, a utility knife that can do anything. And I think that's our future, particularly now with what's going on. So master one thing, and when you master that, I promise you will have mastered a lot of different things. I get called on to do so many things. All I do in my life, and her can back me on this, the only thing I do pretty well in my life is mix records. But people have called me to perform marriages, do divorces, do editing, auto-tuning, all that stuff. And because I've worked so hard to get good at one thing, I kind of mastered a lot of those things in the process, particularly the divorce thing. So we'll see you next week.